We are live on the tube. Are we now live on the gram? And we are live on the gram. Hey, first live in a while. Gus Foss here, Legacy and Leaders Podcast. As you see by the title, this is the FCS Focus preseason edition. So if you know me, first time watching, first time listening, whatever it is, uh, I really like telling stories. I don't consider myself a member of media. Don't consider myself a reporter. I am just a brother who really likes telling stories. Telling, I like people hearing about those who've taken a road less traveled, harder stories, tales of triumph, perseverance. A lot of media people will say that and they cover it, but I really like for everyday average fans to learn that, bro, we've all got an opportunity to be somebody great. And I've really enjoyed this season, whether if that was for NFL prospects, all Americans on the D1 level, all conference and all league players at the arena level. Super excited right now for the interview that just dropped with the greatest wrestler in the history of Oklahoma, Coach Tayon Ware. Episode 2 of that is going to be dropping real soon. Amazing gems, man. Just sitting down with him in that time, getting that little bit of over an hour, sitting down and just listening to the gems that he dropped on life, on manhood, on husbandry, on focus, on perseverance, on diligence. Man, just amazing. So, yeah, man, welcome to the live. Tap in. I'm trying to get these hours up, trying to get these live hours up. If you see the hat, rough goal last night. Jacksonville Sharks randomly indoor football league talk. Gonna do an episode on that. Looking to sit down with a couple of guys who, from everything that I'm hearing, be some people who get a couple of camp invites, some UFL invites, maybe some mid-season Canadian football calls. God bless, it's amazing. But yeah, man, Fisher's Freight, local team. Well, not local to me, local to where my parents were in Indianapolis, out in Fishers, Indiana. Shout out my boy A Leaf Juice. Shout out Aaron A. Ron Jackson. Amazing season. Man, that call is coming. But yeah, great season, man. Indoor football league on all levels. Canadian football is jumping off right now. Speaking of jumping off, a man from Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the unofficial team of the Legacy and Leaders podcast, balling out. But yeah, super excited to sit down and tap in with y'all on this random Sunday on FCS football. Of course, throughout the season, I'll be breaking down a number of teams this week. I'll be talking some Colorado, some Sac State, and no Colorado this episode. This episode, I really want to focus specifically on 4 to 5 teams. One is the team that I expect to be the upstart of all of FCS college football, and that is Sac State. Another I really want to discuss is what Coach Thomas Ford has done with Idaho during this offseason. I would be absolutely remiss if I did not discuss my former opponent, the gentleman that I say me and a number of other people he gave us the realization that we would be better fathers, law enforcement officers, garbage men, 9 to 5 workers, union workers, and Deshaun Jackson making his glorious arrival at Delaware State. You can't talk Delaware State without talking Coach Travis. If you know, you know. And the last team I really want to discuss, I like Big Sky football, Cal Poly, Montana. All of them are great. But, I like the MEAC, all 6 of your teams. But I really want to talk about my upset to win the SWAC, and that would be Prairie View A&M and Tremaine Jackson. Matter of fact, let's start there. So, for those of you who don't watch HBCU football, even if you do, Prairie View A&M is probably a brand new name for you, primarily because, as people joke around, specifically Scotty from Off Script, uh, Prairie View has about 12 fans. Now that seems like a joke, but in all reality, when you watch Prairie View's games outside of their homecoming, is not exactly a whole lot going on. Like there's not an abundance of support for Prairie View or what Prairie View is doing. So for the past couple of years, I think to believe they won the West 2 to 3 years ago, they're an up and down school when it comes to football, which is odd. If you know the location of where Prairie View A&M is, and you see the funding that they're able to get from outside of larger institutions like your Texas A&Ms, and you see the programs that they have at Prairie View A&M, everything for them should say this is a school that should absolutely excel in football. I mean, you look at a Rice. Rice is a difficult institution academically to get into, but outside of that, Rice, decent decent football program. They're not bottom tier, but they're going to give you 4 wins every year. You look at a North Texas. You look at an FCS level incarnate word. You even look at what Kibby has done or Coach Kimball's done at Texas State. You look at the state of Texas as a whole, all the way down even to the Division II level, from local kid from San Pedro, transfers from Arizona down the level to University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, which is just starting up a football program, and it looks amazing. Like the facilities, the recruiting, them closing off the walls of the Rio Grande and the Del Rio section of Texas to getting all of those kids, Mission, Mansfield, down, even tapping in the Permian Basin, even going as far west as New Mexico to get a couple of these players. But on all levels, D1 down to D2, even NAI, it's Texas, man. Football is the thing. So you look, and I say all of that to say you look at your two major HBCU programs there at Texas Southern, which, for a couple of years ago with Andrew Body tossing the rock, great year. Historically, Michael Strahan, the graduate at Texas Southern, up and down. I had a cousin, Robert, played basketball there the last time that they made the Sweet 16, not Sweet 16, but the actual Final Four tournament. Robert was the six-man shooting guard on that team. Good at basketball. They do pretty good at baseball, but football, they teeter. Then you look at Prairie View. Prairie View has the facilities. Prairie View has the location. Prairie View has the internally built recruiting with being in the state of Texas. So then it makes you kind of wonder, I mean, no offense, what the hell are we doing here? How are we not able to get better? How are we not able to improve? How is Texas A&M, or not Texas A&M, but how is Prairie View A&M consistently like not excelling in football? How do you not keep these in-state recruits? You have all of these things to offer: legitimate degrees, awesome facilities, an amazing environment. Like if you walk the campus at PV, I walked that campus at 19, even though I wasn't supposed to be on that campus, but I walked that campus, and I've been on a couple of HBU's campuses. I went to Stillman, which missed Stillman football. I've been on Lane. I've walked the campus at Bethune-Cookman with its non-gates. Hashtag Ed Reed was right. But beyond that, you look at the campus, Prairie View A&M, and it's mind blowing that they're not able to get athletes to buy in, specifically football players. Where in Texas, blasphemous as it is, they treat football like church. You go to small towns in Texas and everything shuts down on Fridays. Friday night lights is a real thing. So for a school like Prairie View to not be able to get young black talent, young black players who, hey, maybe I don't get a full ride offer to Northern Texas. Maybe not even Incarnate Word, maybe not Texas State. God forbid, you're an undersized lineman and you're not really getting a look to go to Texas A&M or Texas. All of these litanies and countless colleges they have there, and their lies Prairie View A&M, and they can't get the talent. I think that stops this year. I think that the presence of Tremaine Jackson is more than a game changer. I think that Coach Jackson arriving there is going to be this is going to be a level of game changing that I don't think the fans, all 12, 13, 14, 16, 19, however many the joke is of people who cheer for PV, I don't think they are prepared for what's going to happen. I think Coach Jackson is coming in there with a mindset of win and win now. He went viral initially for his stance post on social media where he told players, "Hey, look, man, you jumping in that portal, you look over here, I ain't got no bag for you. You ain't guaranteed no play time. But what I can guarantee you is an opportunity." And I think so many times that gets lost, specifically in today's college football, where not just the fact that NIL is present, and I don't want to sound like the infamous junior college coach who comes on, yeah, 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 boy, homie, online. I don't want to sound like that dude. But in all reality, there's been a shift in college sports to where now the players do have a little more control. They do have a little more autonomy, specifically over their bodies and how they're used, when they're used, and what they can earn. Now the game is somewhat changed. So Coach Jackson came out and said, "Hey, look, man, I get it. I dig what y'all are doing. That being said, I'm standing on business. ain't ain't none of that. I need a bag. I need this. You're coming for an opportunity, and you could play, and we'll showcase you. And I need my connections." Now, the difference between Coach Jackson and a lot of these other coaches who made their way through the SWAC, and no knock against them, and even though Coach Jackson himself is a member of the Good Bros, the member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, outside of that, he is somebody who comes in from a powerhouse Division II program where, I mean, he did nothing but win. And by nothing but win, I mean nothing but win. I mean, to be comes from Valdosta. He's like a national champ runner, multiple All Americans, put some guys CFL, NFL, proven pedigree of winning. Now he's arrived at Prairie View A&M, where winning has been inconsistent. Where I think the fans at PV aren't going to be ready is, what do you do now where you have a coach who comes in and he wants accountability and he really wants to win and he needs that support. He's still on business in that post. "Hey, man, I want to win. Don't come. I'm not giving bags. We're not giving guaranteed play time. You tell me why you want to be here." And in that time, the amount of dudes who jumped into the portal and showed up there was wild because people thought, "Oh, there's no way that's going to work." And it worked. It worked. I mean, the first thing he did was he hit the road and he went to Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, big cities, small cities. He absolutely tapped into Texas and said, "My mindset now that I'm here is the same thing that he did in Valdosta." When he was down in Valdosta, he said, "I want to look at all of these kids who are being overlooked, and it's maybe a fringe talent, but I could get this kid at," I believe they were operating on 20 to 22 full scholarships at Valdosta. Now he's going to get 30 to 36 at PV as a proven winner and a guy who knows how to recruit. PV fans, I need you to be ready because this brother's not playing. But I see Prairie View as a team, specifically with some of the transfers they got in. I'm over here looking at the list because I believe it was recently they got an Oregon transfer in. And I'm not somebody who's a huge fan of, "Oh, wow, they got this transfer in," because we've seen it happen in schools. I'm not going to say anything. That institution in Mississippi that rhymes with Laxon. But you'll there's a lot of fanfare attached to the transfer portal. You get a lot of people who show up and they have these accolades and they have stars, and it don't add up. It's not a mesh. You can say one thing about continuity and people building, but in our reality, many stars be lying. Some of these kids, they, as the youth say, they ain't him. So I look and I see Coach Jackson, the young man who they've recently brought in from Oregon, who I think is going to be great, just due to the style that I think Jackson is going to bring. Even though the thing about the SWAC is, if you have a decent quarterback in the SWAC, decent, man, you win hella games. Where I think Coach Jackson is going to do this differently is because he had an All American quarterback down in Valdosta, All American offensive lines. What I think he's going to do is give you a nice little balance in that run pass. But I think this is going to be a 60-40, you know, run first, pass second team. I think he is going to look to the pass. I think if you're a young person in Texas and you're a tight end, or you're an H back, or you're a running back, you should really be looking at PV. I don't think PV is going to absolutely lean into the quarterback play that we've seen traditionally in the SWAC. Because again, if you have a decent quarterback in the SWAC, you can win games. I don't see PV going, we absolutely need an amazing quarterback. We need a guy who's going to come out here and throw for 2,000 yards. I don't think that is it at all. What I think is that their approach to football is not going to be SWAC. I actually think the move for Coach Jackson and PV is they're gonna do old school MEAC ball. I think Coach Jackson's approach with the line that they have, and a couple of running backs in the room, they've got some decent receivers on the outside, but I also think they've got a couple of tight ends, a couple of running backs in the room, and I think they're going to go out here and choose to not throw the ball 25 to 30 times a game. I legitimately think he's going to bring a division to grind kind of mindset that is going to allow them to upset a number of teams in the SWAC. Was going over the PV's schedule for this season. PV actually plays uh, Rio Grande Valley, their second game of the season, which I think is going to be it's UT it's Rio Grande Valley's like second season in football. So man, I don't see them like they're gonna do well. I don't see them like I see Texas Permian Basin, who got back to playing football and was immediately good. But they've also got one of the best college coaches under 40 in the game who recruits well, and he's got a dope staff, and they know what they want to do, and they do real dope in the Lone Star Conference. Uh, so I think looking at their schedule, they open up their season against Texas Southern. That's a win because Andrew Body ain't coming back. Uh, they beat Rio Grande Valley. Northwestern State was an FCS opponent, toss up game. Even though they're all FCS level, I think they run Grambling. I think they punch Grambling in the mouth. I think they beat Alcorn. Uh, please, as a side note, because they have them. If you are still scheduling, if you're still scheduling VUL, which is Virginia University Lynchburg, and I know Coach Jackson just got there. But if you're putting Lincoln and you're putting VUL on your schedule still, kind of delegitimizes what you're looking to do. Like it's an easy win, but I mean you might as well play a junior college. As a matter of fact, yeah, no, that's a stretch. You might as well not even play a junior college because I know Cerritos, San Mateo, Long Beach City, Garden City, Eastern Mississippi, Kahoma, um, El Camino, shoot, man, even ELAC, Laney, all these schools in California, Riverside Community College will give you a run for your money more than you'll get putting Lincoln University, California on your schedule. You will get a better run putting Lincoln, or not Lincoln, Langston, Oklahoma. This is an NAIA school, Red River style. You could put this HBCU in Langston, awesome campus, by the way. You would get more of a run and more competition from Langston. You would get more run and competition as PV. Listen close. If you put Wiley on your schedule, you put Wiley on your schedule. I don't care. You put Tyler, Texas Community. You could put Blinn on your schedule. Blinn College, Tyler, Riverside Community College, El Camino, Cerritos. LA Harbor College don't exist no more, but you get their last graduating class, throw them on the field. They're going to give you a better game than Virginia University, Lynchburg, and Lincoln University, California. Stop putting them on your schedule. It's disrespectful to your players. And it kind of negates what it is you're trying to do with growing your program, putting this auto win, auto pay on these like online institution schools. Like put Bishop Sycamore on the schedule at that rate. Um, After they get that win, they go against. This is where I think it gets a little bit of a toss up because the SWAC is very interesting. The SWAC is every year you have some team who, they should run Ruckshaw over the SWAC, and they always lose a trap game. I don't think Alabama State's a trap game. I think Alabama State is better than PV. I don't think PV wins. I actually think between that and maybe Grambling could be their first. So, PV to me either loses their first game versus Grambling or they lose their first game versus Alabama State. I think they lose at Alabama A&M because I think that's a trap game. I think if they beat Alabama State, they come in and somehow find a way to lose to Alabama A&M. I think they beat UAPB because it's UAPB, no disrespect. And Valley. This is an episode for a different day. I really want to see if I get my cousin on to talk about this. Man, Valley, Mississippi Valley is a Division II program. I'll talk about that in another episode. But I honestly could see PV losing maybe 3 games. I think they lose 1 or 2 games in the SWAC, and I firmly, firmly believe that PV, regardless of who comes out of the SWAC East, I firmly believe PV could be in the Celebrations Bowl this year. Like I don't, they don't have a whole lot of glitz or glamour on their roster. The transfer portal it wasn't heavily starred up. It's more workers than anything. Like they got a lot of dudes who they don't have the stars, but when you look at their stats show this is a person who plays, this is a person who's consistent, and it wasn't all of the fanfare or as heralded players, but they got some dudes. So, starting out, wrap that up. PV will lose 3 games max this year. 3 games max. That is it. PV does not lose more than 2 games in the SWAC. Book it. I said it here first. PV don't lose more than 2 games in the SWAC. So, that's my FCS preview for the SWAC. Nothing against Jackson State. I know, and regardless of how much Jackson State fans say it's not, listen, Dion Dion coming to Jackson State was a thing. Dion being present at Jackson State was a thing. It did help promote it. It helped promote all HBCUs, no matter how much people want to talk about it. No, we existed before that. And an episode and a live for another day. I'd love to get some of my HBCU partners on, dudes who graduated, all the D9 people, all of them. But there was an importance of Deion Sanders arriving at Jackson State because in all reality, listen, man, y'all know you're fans of that program. The relevance hadn't been there in a while. It hadn't been. So he kind of rejuvenated. It wasn't like no one ever knew about it, but he rejuvenated a program that a lot of people had forgotten about. And they've been able to ride that wave, which has been smart because a lot of institutions haven't figured out how to continue to ride the wave of relevance or to leverage social media the way Jackson State has fully leaned into it. Man, I pivot over from that. We'll dabble a little bit into the Big Sky. Coach Ford out at Idaho, the Vandals, the fighting Moscows. Listen, there's not a whole lot to do in Idaho. If you're in Moscow or you're in Coeur d'Alene, listen, man, it's Boise, Coeur d'Alene, Moscow. Like there's no disrespect to Idaho, but the the boys in the Kibby Dome, and I responded to this on Twitter, and I'll probably put it as an Instagram post. I pencil in Idaho every year. Like when Idaho decided to drop back down into the FCS. If you don't know Idaho, they've been back down in the FCS for I believe this is their 3rd season returning back to the FCS for 7 to 7, no more than over a decade. They were competing in the WAC, which was the Western Athletic Conference. For those who know, now it's a lot of them are done with the Mountain West and the Pac-12 and that remix and all this foolishness. But there was a time where you had Idaho, and Idaho was in the WAC, and they were playing Hawaii and New Mexico State and Nevada, and that the WAC as it was, Fresno State, fighting Pat Hills back in the day, where the cars were running stuff. But now they've stepped back down to the FCS level, and it's been better for them. Their AD in the school got together and realized that from a financial perspective, it made more sense for them to drop down a level. Listen close, Mississippi Valley. Dropping down's not that bad. Um, but they dropped down a level, and they've been consistent. So this past, I believe it was November, December, they brought in Coach Thomas Ford. Thomas Ford was former like quarterback, special teams, offense coordinator, all of that at Idaho. And Idaho's never been a bad football program. They've always been good. And the hiring of Ford, which was huge because he just finished wrapping up coaching at Oregon State as the running back coach, having former Colorado running back Anthony Hankerson, who was dancing at Oregon State, given the freedom to go do what he needed to do. And Ford is like a really interesting football mind. He's a guy who understands like position by position by position what's needed. And you talk to, I've had the chance to talk to two or three guys who played for him in his past before he arrived at Idaho. I actually spoke to a couple of guys who played for him at Simon Fraser, where he really was a really good recruiter, even from there. Like his ability to recruit, for those of you who don't know, Simon Fraser is a college that's in Canada. It's on the west coast of Canada. Now, back in the day, Simon Fraser was similar to Southern Oregon, which is also similar to Idaho. Not saying location wise, but they had developed a pipeline from like the Kent down to Seattle, down through Oregon, Northern Cal, Southern California, and specifically not just junior college kids from California, where a lot of other schools go, but they specifically found a lot of kids in Los Angeles, Orange County, and the Inland Empire to pick up to go from California and skip all of these smaller schools in Oregon, skip all of your schools in Washington, and go into Canada to play college football. And they did this for decades. Now, when Coach Ford was there, he was moving the exact same way for like that season he was there. Matter of fact, he parlayed that season and seeing the track record of utilizing that pipeline and turned it into being, I think he went over to be like the quality control or assistant coordinator over at Washington, but still like maintaining those relationships. So even when you see it now, like coming into this season with Idaho, a lot of their players who they recruited and who they were able to get signed, which he was hired at a perfect time because bringing him in there in November, December opened up that period of where players really are beginning to sign, that January to March period where dudes are done with football. We're now in the second half of the season and it's focused on training and grades. Like anybody who played football knows the second half, look, man, senior season is done. At this point, I'm just trying to stay in shape, trying to stay healthy, and I need grades. So I'm trying to make sure that I get through the clearinghouse. I need to maintain what I need to do to get to the clearinghouse and do all of my interviews and meet with all of these coaches and do these visits and unofficials. Am I going to go JUCO, NAIA? If you've played ball and you've done through the process, you know the second half, your coaches are selling you. This is an opportunity for you to be sold and put out there by your coaches. So when you look at like what Idaho did from a standpoint of their recruiting, who they signed, who they brought in, like there's you see Coach Ford and the stats that he's put together, their reach. I think the furthest kid, uh, they got a kid from, oh man, they got a kid. I want to believe he's from Georgia. I'm going to say it was a transfer uh, in from another school, but the fact that they were even able to reach as far out to Georgia to get a kid who was like a former 2-star, 3-star kid at a high school and get him to come to Idaho, but consistently being able to get a lot of kids who are still in that pipeline, that Washington, Oregon, California, understanding the market, understanding how to really approach recruiting. Like the one thing that I've seen at Idaho, and there's been no change since Coach Ford is there, but I think again, his experience at Washington, his experience as a head coach at Simon Fraser, his experience at up in Corvallis at Oregon State, he's really able, like you talk to players again who were for at Simon Fraser for him that year or two that he was there. You talk to some of the guys who I know who worked quality assistants and high school coaches when he was at Washington in that role. And even last season, the high school and JUCO dudes who I've had a chance to kind of tap in with, hey man, what was it like meeting him? They all say the same thing. Like he understands the importance of going to recruit, and everything isn't transfer portal. He's really trying to maintain that pipeline and let people know, hey, look, just because there's a new man in charge at Idaho, that Washington, Oregon, California, even Nevada, we still want these kids. You still have an opportunity to come here. You can still be a scholarship athlete. And if you've ever had the opportunity, which if any of you watch this, press pass. I haven't had. I've been to Boise, seen Bluefield, but I really want an opportunity to go and see the Kibby Dome because there was, early 2000s. If you were a kid from LA, specifically Inglewood, Fairfax, Westchester, Long Beach, any junior college in, within like the 20 to 30 mile radius around LA, you found your way to Lane, Stillman for Division II level, a handful of NAIAs such as Graceland, that's my cousin, or man, you ended up at Idaho because Idaho was a place where they really allowed you to flourish. And you think of a guy like a Mike Iupati. Mike Iupati back in the day was extremely under recruited, and that staff said, "This is a kid who could do something." Bang! Now he goes off and has like a hell of a career in the NFL. But that is what Idaho does. That's what Coach Ford is doing. His approach to recruiting is specific. Yeah, they'll do what they do on the field because Idaho, that environment, the Kibby Dome, they're going to give you 7, 8 wins every year. But what Coach Ford is doing in that recruiting, man, between him and I believe it's Linehan, who he's got on his staff, like there is Matt Linehan is like his offensive coordinator. Like you are going to see, you're going to see something amazing. Like they are going to put together a team again, 7, 8 wins guaranteed. And like I believe Linehan played at Idaho back in the day, so their recruiting, their offensive style. I'm excited to see what Idaho does. Running through their schedule, Idaho has got, let's see, where are we with Idaho's schedule? Idaho opens up against Wazoo, which Wazoo, it's since the death nail of the Pac-12, been a little bit interesting. Uh, I mean, hell, they beat Colorado the last year they were in the Pac-12. They technically played a Pac-12 season last year against Oregon State. So it's you don't really hear about Washington State as much anymore. Again, once the Pac-12 died off, and now this reinvented version of the Pac Mountain, whatever they're doing, is interesting. Uh, they start the season out against. They start the season out against Washington State. Uh, After Washington State, let's see. So we open up our season against Washington State. After that, they play St. Thomas, which I believe St. Thomas is an FCS Pioneer League, I believe. So they play St. Thomas. So you're looking at more than likely, for entertainment purposes, I think they could be Washington State at Wazoo. I don't think it's that. The Battle of the Palouse is not what it once was. I think they come out with a close win over Washington State. I think they put St. Thomas in the dirt at the Kibby Dome. Utah Tech. I don't think Utah Tech. I don't think Dixie State. I don't think Utah State. I don't think Utah. And outside of BYU, your other like four major school, we got Weber State there too. Yeah, throw Weber State a bunch. I don't think outside of BYU that any Utah football program, I'm not including Snow College, I don't think any Utah football program wins more than 5 games this season. Utah Tech, Southern Utah, Utah State, Weber State, Dixie State, Utah. Like I don't outside of BYU, I don't see any of the other Utah institutions winning more than 5 games. Like, and specifically because a lot of them are FCS level, I think it's like feast or famine. I think they just like devour themselves. I think that's how it kind of happens. It's got they kind of just cannibalize themselves for wins, but I don't see any of the Utah schools winning more than 5 games. All the Poly homies who coach there and sent their sons there. Matter of fact, I legitimately believe I have a cousin who's playing at Utah Tech right now. I've got to double check. If so, I apologize. I love you. Um, y'all winning 4 games this year. That's what it is. But yeah, so Utah Tech, they'll win. So we starting out 3-0 from Utah Tech. They go to San Jose State. I think they lose at San Jose State. At Montana, it is tricky at Washington Grizzly Stadium. It's tricky at in Missoula. That is a rivalry game for the Little Brown Stein, which as of right now, if I'm correct, yeah, Idaho leads this series. Idaho leads the series by 25 games. And that's been kind of a back and forth series. I don't think it was played in 24. So it's the first time it's played since 23. Montana won in 23. Montana football is always good. Can't wait to do a breakdown on them. Specifically the fact that them and Montana State missed out on the kid who just committed to who I'm going to break down next, Brennan Marion and Sacramento State. Crazy. Losing the in-state kid in Montana, an in-state rated kid. Top for another day. Uh, but yeah, so I think it's a tough loss at Montana. I think what Coach Ford and them putting together is dope. But I just think but you really don't catch Montana on a down year. Montana football hasn't had a down season in 12, 13 years. It's been well over a decade since Montana's had a quote unquote off season. They're always competitive. Another team who you guarantee 6, 7 wins, like every single year. They're going to be there in that big sky. Northern Colorado, much love Northern Colorado wrestling. Uh, Northern Colorado football, it's constantly a rebuild. Um, Constantly rebuild. I don't see Northern Colorado putting up much of a fight in this game. I think they trounced Northern Colorado at the Kibby Dome. I think they beat Northern, or sorry, I think they beat the fighting. I think they beat Cheney State of not the HBCU Cheney State. I think they beat Eastern Washington at Eastern Washington. I think they trounced Portland State. They're going down there to Flagstaff to play Northern Arizona. I think they beat Northern Arizona handily. I think UC Davis is a trap game because I think UC Davis is really old school football. UC Davis, despite being a team in California, if you've ever been to UC Davis and you know where UC Davis is, and you understand like where that entire section of California, you know, like it's very red state, old school. So like their style of football, they ain't flashing. Like they look, man, we're recruiting kids really primarily who want to be veterinarians. Like they are the you listen to Colorado people, if you listen to like Matt McChesney, he talks about, Colorado State, man, bro, they want to be veterinarians and stuff. That is UC Davis. I know 2 people have graduated there who, and both one is a vet and one does something else with animals. Like that is it. That is UC Davis in a nutshell. Um, that's their plan. We ain't doing nothing fancy. We're gonna run with the quarterback. We're gonna run with the running back. Man, we're gonna run with the punter. So I think that'll be a tough game. That's a toss up. At Sac State, I'm an unofficial Sac State homer, and this is at Sac State. And I think this game, and at that point of the season for Sac State, and even at this point of the season for Idaho, this is probably one of when ESPN, because it's going to be on ESPN the Ocho, be on ESPN Plus. When they bring it up at this time, you'll probably have each of these teams with one loss against an FBS team and maybe I think Idaho will beat Wazoo. So maybe they have each of them has one FBS and one FCS loss. I think the winner of this game is really going to determine who wins the Big Sky Conference. And I think when that game, mark this down, I'm going to chop it. When that game comes, it'll be the decider of who wins the Big Sky between Idaho and Sac State. I think Sac State comes out on top because for what I'm going to break down next, I think they have the weapons and the play style that is going to throw a lot of teams in the Big Sky off. And the last game is quite honestly the only game that matters to Idaho, which is the only game that matters to the non-Cincinnati Bengals. Um, the the team the team down the road in Pocatello. The only team that matters is the team that plays in the ICCU though. Like that game is, you. I've got a bunch of family from Ohio and maybe 4 Ohio State grads. You lose every game in Ohio State. You lose, don't care. Lose Minnesota, Purdue, and IU. I don't care. Beat Michigan. Same for Michigan. We lose every game. Beat Ohio State. Miami fans don't care about anything, but you have to beat Florida State and you have to beat Florida. UCLA, regardless of what they do, you've got to beat SC. Like you have to be your rival. So I expect them to do what they've been doing for years, which is beating Idaho State for that potato trophy. Yeah, it's like 20 plus, 20 plus. I think the last, yeah, it's been about 6, 7 years since Idaho State won. And I think like I might have known a safety on the team. Like I might have had a partner whose cousin or younger brother was a safety on Idaho State at the time. Like it's been that long. So we're looking at pre-COVID. That's the last time Idaho lost to Idaho State. So yeah, I think Idaho again guarantees 7 wins this year. I think they're going to be real competitive in the Big Sky. Now I really want to get to my favorite thing about this coming season uh, in the Big Sky and FCS football and all that. The thing I'm going to chop up the most out of this because I'm not going to talk about Delaware State long. Matter of fact, I'm going to Delaware State now. I've talked about PV. I think PV wins the SWAC. I think Idaho finishes top 3 to top 4 in the Sky West, and that's really depending on, as long as Sac State does what I believe they will do. I don't think Montana takes a step back. I think Montana continues to punch people in the mouth. I think Montana State continues to do the same. I mean, you're looking at Eastern Washington not really be. Yeah, you're looking at Idaho finishing in the top 3. Like I said, Northern, I don't expect a lot from Northern Colorado or Portland State or Northern Arizona. I really think it's you're going to get your same rotation of, uh, I think, you're probably going to get the same rotation of your Idaho, Montana, Montana State, and now just toss Sac in there. But yeah, that's Idaho. Not going to say a whole lot about Delaware State again. Deshaun Jackson, I said when Deshaun was hired that it would be real recruiting battles with he and Brennan Marion at Sac State. And I said that one, just understanding how California high school recruiting goes, and two, knowing coaches on staffs at like 7 of the top high schools for football and 2 junior colleges in California. Like knowing coaches at Poly, Wilson, Rancho, King, Riverside College, El Camino, Cerritos, J. Sarah in Orange County, J. Sarah in Gardena, uh, Dorsey, just knowing relatives, family, I understood like this is going to be a lot of recruiting battles because there's not, the emphasis isn't always on, man, let's go out and go get this top. No, you have some kids who are realistic about, I'm not a I might not get into Wyoming. Wyoming might not come for me. Uh, banning Banning High School just had their first Division 1 signee in over 20 years, and he's going to Wyoming. All of his other teammates, these are kids who are, back in the day, if you're a kid from St. Pedro Wilmington area, you would go to LA Harper College. Now these are kids NAIA, JUCO, etc. So knowing that, looking at kids, at San Pedro High, a kid who I know right now who really should have been a D1 prospect, but there's reasons why. Like, I hate recruiting. I hate the way high school recruiting goes, but a kid who was a legitimate like small school FCS prospect who passed over, he'll be to junior college this year, and D1s will come knocking down his door next season after he balls out. But knowing the way California recruiting goes, I said, man, Marion is going to be in for a tough ride against Jack, because a lot of kids don't know Marion from his playing days at when he was at Tulsa. Like, a lot of people don't know that. They know the go offense. They know him at UNLV, but man, Jack is Jack. And if you really know the spoon that stirs the drink, Jack is amazing in when you get him in a room and speaking. But man, Coach Travis, man, Trav, listen, but when they announced Jack as the coach, I told people, you just watch how many kids from Poly, whether they were at Poly, their former Poly Wilson, Cerritos kids, Gar High, Gardena, Narbonne, San Pedro, and I said that the day Jack was hired. I want you to go look at Delaware State's roster and see how many kids from those schools are. I know what I know. So watching him and Coach Marion go back and forth. There's a kid right now. It's a class of 2027 kid who is, when his list comes up and people are going to see a couple of bigger schools, then they're going to see Delaware State and they're going to see Sacramento State. I don't want people to be shocked. That's what I put. When it's going to look wild, because you're going to see like USC or UCLA or Colorado or San Diego State. You're going to see all these like Division I programs or FBS programs, and then you're going to see Delaware State and Sac State. You're going to be confused. I'm not. I'm also not an insider. Just LA is small. But yeah, so that's Delaware State. I'm not going to Delaware State too deep. It's the universe. It's Long Beach State University at Delaware. All of the kids from the east side. You're going to see a handful more kids from Poly. When that transfer portal opens up after this season, you're going to see a number of SoCal JUCO kids jump ship and make their way. I mean, you've seen it. The absolute definition of the battle in recruiting between Jack and Coach Marion. Looking at, in and there were murmurs around of the quarterback from Dell State jumping, and he jumped, and people were, oh man, Jack loses it, and less than 48 hours later, Caden Bennett, who pretty much would have been the man this season if not for the introduction of Jaden Rashada. Caden Bennett goes, well, here's a great opportunity for me. Goes over there with Jack, where they know, despite it being the MEAC, the style that Jack is about to bring is very similar to my breakdown that I'm going to give you on Sac State. I think what Jack is about to bring, his ability to recruit, the relationships he has, being able to leverage television and his celebrity. I think the style that they're going to bring, Coach Chung talked with two players who worked with him personally. Coach Chung is a O-line coach, and the O-line is going to be there. You've got Clinton Portis as a running back coach. Let me tell you something. No disrespect. Don't be fooled. Everybody else in the MEAC, Chinnisberry and them, Norfolk, they want to run the rock. The way y'all looked at Colorado and they said, oh man, Colorado was playing daddy ball. The way you saw Shador, stand back. Caden Bennett about to throw for 2,600 plus. You remember I told you, when Delaware State has like 3 receivers over 500 yards, remember I told you, because they tossing the rock, they tossing it. But yeah, Caden Bennett now there left Sac State, goes to the University of Long Beach on the East Coast, and yeah, man, Del State. In fact, let me pull up Del. Let's pull up Del State's. Let's pull up Del State's schedule, because I know there are people. Because I was I believe Del State's schedule. I firmly believe Dell State schedule wise, let's see where we at for Dell State schedule, which I'm so glad y'all are selling merch. Like it took them a while. Where is our schedule? So Dell State schedule for this season. They're at Delaware. They're gonna lose to Delaware because Delaware's just a good program. Like Delaware's just a better football program at this point. Albany is they lose to Albany. Bowie State, y'all better not lose to Bowie State, Jack. If you lose to Bowie State, my lord. But you should beat Bowie State. At St. Francis, I believe they beat St. Francis. I think Sacred Heart is a close game. I think they beat Monmouth. I believe think their homecoming game is against South Connecticut State, which you have to win because it's your first homecoming. They going to bye. They play NCCU. I think they lose to NCCU. I think they beat Norfolk. Uh, I think they upset Morgan. They play Howard. They should beat Howard by 30. And they play South Carolina State against the Fighting Chinnis Bears. They win at least 6 games this year. And I think this is a rebuild year because nobody thinks Delaware State and you think football. I actually think Delaware State, it's been about 5-6 years since they had like a player drafting NFL. And I want to say it was like a defensive lineman or defensive tackle they had. But you don't think Delaware State football. Like the MEAC is 6 teams. Let's keep it a buck. The MEAC is 6 teams. Yeah, what are we doing? So, I mean, there's not saying expectations are low, but you beat Bowie, you beat St. Francis, you beat Monmouth, you beat the South Connecticut State, you beat Norfolk and Mike Vick and them, you beat Howard. That's 6 wins. That's huge. 6 wins is huge. Being quite honest, this seems wild. No disrespect to Jack, no disrespect to Coach Trav. Man, you win 4 games at Del State. That's you're in a rebuild. You're in a rebuild process. They put an investment into facilities in the Jack. Those who are in the know understand there was money that was deferred. There was, not saying there was money that was deferred, but the money could have been way different. But there were some assurances for staffing and other things put in place, similar to some other coaches we've seen, where they just wanted to make sure other things were in place to make sure wins were there. So yeah, man, Dell State had 6 wins, amazing. Dell State. So we talked Idaho, top 3 to 4 in the sky. We talked PV, who's going to win the SWAC. We've talked the University of Long Beach at Delaware and Jack, 5 to 6 wins. Now to the thing that I'm going to be breaking down all this season, and it's not biased because I've sat down with Swindle and Tullis and I'm trying to get Coach Ed, probably catch them during the bye week. Sacramento State. There's a lot of money that has been poured into Sacramento State University. Sacramento. Shaquille O'Neal over like the GM over basketball. Mike Bibby as the coach. Mikey Williams from San Diego, who went from highly touted going to Memphis to some craziness off the court to Central Florida to now arriving in Sac State, and a very, minus the crime, just what looked to be, a lot of NIL activity with a Jaden Rashada, going from, highly touted out of NorCal. From NorCal, I'm going to Miami. Well, now I'm not. Well, I'm going to Florida. Well, the Florida bag wasn't there. So now I'm going to ASU. Well, now I'm suing Florida. Well, now I'm suing Florida. Now I'm leaving ASU. Now I'm going over to Georgia because it may or may not be a bag or it may be playtime because now, the quarterback who was dating one of them twins is gone. Now I'm at Sac State. Uh, you look at Ernest Campbell from Texas A&M. Texas A&M from that, I believe, 2023 or 2022 signing class. They might have 3 to 4 players left on that roster because a lot of people felt like this was so money driven. Well, insert Ernest Campbell. And now Ernest Campbell is at Sac State, where there's an influx of money, where they're pushing to go to the FBS, where they were recently denied. So now this year they'll operate kind of as an independent / Big Sky team. But all of this is going on, and at the helm of it, in his first role as the guy, is Brennan Marion. And if you understand like Brennan Marion's past and what he's done, like Brennan Marion's younger than me. I think like Brennan will be like 38. I think I'm older than Brennan maybe by a year. But this is a dude from VA who goes from VA, plays at Tulsa, balls at Tulsa, is like doing numbers, and he does the old school grind of a dude who really wants to be a coach. He's just out there at like 23, 24 years old going, all right, cool, I'll coach at this high school, I'll go to this high school, I'll go to this high school, I'll be a head coach here. And he works his way up to like a quality assistant, and he keeps grinding. And really where it starts to hit is around 2017, 2018. He arrives at the school he grew up down the street from, Howard, real HU. And he arrives at Howard, and he's got these ideas and this offense that he throws in. And Howard has this really good offensive season, and he parlays that to going to William and Mary. And William and Mary go, man, this kid is smart. And he goes from there to now he's not a coordinator. I believe he's a tight ends, which is wild. Tight ends or wide receiver coach at Hawaii. And he goes from there to Pittsburgh, going to Hawaii and Pittsburgh. They see what he does with the talent hands on, and they say he can coach the position, he does this. And Steve Sarkisian goes, hey, I like this guy. Brings him in as a passing coordinator. In the words of Larry June, numbers. Balls out, passing game, numbers, draftees, everything that you're looking for. Jumps over to UNLV, and the exact same thing. He gets over to UNLV, and the quarterback slips my mind, but even like you could see the way that the wheels turn in his brain, to where I don't want to, well, I want to say this because I'm going to clip it. It is Bill Belichick-esque, the way that his system seamlessly applies to players. It was Malik Hodge. Malik Hodge came from Campbell, where I believe he was recruited like initially by like Mike Minter, when Mike Minter was out playing or was out coaching at Campbell University, North Carolina, after those years playing for the Panthers. So Haj Malik Williams goes from Campbell over to UNLV. And when he gets to UNLV, Sluka was the kid's name. Matt Sluka is there, and he's putting up all these numbers for Coach Marion. And the next year, he holds out for NIL, and they go, hey, we brought in Malik Hodge Williams, or Hodge Malik Williams, just for competition. We brought him in here to compete with you to see. Now that you're gone, we've got him in, and they plug Malik Hodge Williams in, and he has like his best like overall statistical season since like his freshman year at Campbell. So much so I believe, like, I want to say Hodge is like a backup in Canada, or he's possibly playing Canada, or right now, or Canada Arena, but comes out and the system just works. And the reason I say Belichick-esque was, we give Tom Brady a lot of credit. Yeah, the rings, and he was able to win one in Tampa, but Bruce Arians is another genius. And you look back at the Patriots, and people always forget, like, Matt Castle. Matt Castle had like an all-pro season in Bill Belichick's offense. No disrespect to Matt Castle, but even Matt Castle said, I hadn't started a game since high school. Like, I sat on the bench at USC. And then I came in here and I played under Belichick, and I balled out, turned it into a check. So you look at what Coach Marion did when he arrives at UNLV, and you're like, all right, cool. So this is him. He's gonna bring this go-go offense, and we're gonna see how this go-go offense works at UNLV, and it's the dome, and they're playing and they're spreading the ball out. And it is the mix of, like he's utilizing the full route tree. And it is very much even like a wild combo of it's like a wild combo of it's like a wild combo of what June Jones was doing like back in the day. Yeah, it's like a wild combo of like what June Jones was doing back in the day, uh with Timmy Chang and Colt Brennan, where he just went, we have a running back, but we're just gonna throw like Chad Owens and Ashley Lilly out here with a handful of other dudes, and we're gonna run the whole route tree, and you try to beat us. Only Brendan Marion's version is, all right, I'm gonna do that same thing. Only like I'm gonna throw in a tight end or an H back in the backfield with a running back, then I'm going to throw him out and I might send him out wide, bring in a wide receiver here. There's a whole lot of motion. You get like the kind of sidecar action with the running backs, and he goes, there's a chance we may run it, but there's a strong possibility we're running with there. It is like if you're watching Sacramento State this year, if you are somebody who is like a huge football nerd and you're somebody who likes schemes, my gosh, man, you are like, it is a NCAA early 2000s Madden player's dream. Like he's the motion, the backs, and it's awesome, man. Like I'll have a more of a breakdown of like a sub 3 minute breakdown I'm gonna have this week on Sac State. But there's so much that I think Brandon Mayer is gonna be able to accomplish this year before they make their push up to the Division 1 level. But watching, like I said, man, that defensive line, Tullis, Brody, Williams, Big Swindle, like their defensive line, the Curtis kid at running back is going to be perfect, getting them in space for what they want to do. He's like a more, less Steven Jackson, less Todd Gurley, more Westbrook, like Brian Westbrook. Get him in space. Shady McCoy. It's a danger, like an Andy Reid style running back. Really, is a dude. Not like every down. Like they've got a nice running back room, but that Curtis kid in space is going to work great on this offense. Like I said, I like Connerly coming over from UNLV. Ernest Campbell's got a lot to prove. The thing that I'm really interested in seeing out of Sac State this year is the defense. Like I know the go offense is going to be awesome, but I think in traditionally as somebody who I keep an ESPN subscription 4 plus, so I could watch all of the random obligatory football games, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that offense stacks up in the Big Sky, a conference where even though, I think the thing that people forget about the Big Sky is you've had some really good passers, like some prolific passers in the Big Sky, but still North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, uh, Eastern Washington, Portland State. If you think of the Big Sky, it's the Big Sky because it's the mountainous region. Like you look where Portland State is, like that's not downtown. Like it's downtown Portland, but it ain't. You look at UC Davis, you look at Sacramento State, you look at Greeley, Colorado, you're looking at Butte and Missoula. Like you're looking at places where for us to recruit locally and keep the door to our state locked, these ain't not a lot of 4.24 guys coming out of Dakotas or Oregons or Washington. Nate Robinson is a 1 in a million kind of talent. Even though he's coming out of Rainier, like he and Jamal Crawford, and those are hoopers. Even though Nate started as a football player, but those are hoopers. Uh, man, the Big Sky's gonna run the ball. Like there is, I love watching Big Sky football because I imagine, just there's a dude who's like Toby Gerhart. If you're old enough to remember Toby Gerhart, he had like played up 2 or 3 seasons for like the Vikings. The Vikings drafted him. Toby Gerhart was like just big Newport Harbor High out in SoCal. He's just tall, strong, powerful, white running back. Like he would have killed it in the 70s. And you look at Toby Gerhart, and when I watch like South Dakota, Montana, like they've gotten better with recruiting, but even the athletes they recruit, they're not your Central Florida guy. It's not a guy who will go to a Central Florida. It's not a guy who will go to Incarnate Word. And realistically, it's not a guy who will go to Sac State, but they recruit guys who fit their style. So they recruit tough, you can make it in this weather, we're going to punch you in the mouth style football. The question for Sac State isn't does the go-go offense work? Because I think it does. And I also think one of the more interesting things that Brendan Marion did, you go down that roster, you scroll down that roster, there's one on the team, and he's a little bit bigger than I'm 6'2", 247. He's a little bit bigger than me. He's about 6'1", 260, 6'2", 260. It's a fullback. You've also got a tight end who's like 6'6", 250, 6'6", 260. They gonna run that ball. The fact that he's got a near 270-pound fullback on the roster who played at UNLV, who you go back and you see clips of that kid, they gonna run that ball. They gonna Patrick guard that thing. They gonna pancake some folks. But will the go-go, I'm not questioning will the go-go style and the dual running backs and all the wheel routes and all of the wet dream of like offensive brainiacs work. My thing is, how does Sac State's defense hold up? I think they've got one of the better defensive line coaches and recruiters in the nation, and Coach Ed. And talking to Leak and Melvin, like they said, oh man, bro, the D line coach, he just makes you feel so at home, family environment. Like every player who I've talked to on the record about Sac State, and the ones who I've had interactions with on social media, and even from recruits, younger kids who I met at the junior college and high school level, just asking, man, what made you, oh man, family, bro, the way there. And it's not a sell. They're really getting these kids to buy into, we want to do something different here. And it was the same approach when Brandon was at UNLV. So that's all the offensive side. Now the defensive side, that defensive line and the safeties. And I'm really interested in seeing, does what does the defense do in the Big Sky? Like you can build an offense. Like I naturally do. It's similar to Deion Sanders at Colorado. Like when he was able to get Cormani McLean or Travis Hunter or any other player who's coming out of high school right now who's committing to play for Deion, who's at a skill position, specifically safety or DB, or even on the wide receiver side or running back. Like that's the standard. You know that. I know Brennan Marion. He's got offensive records and dudes in the pros at all levels to show he can recruit the offensive side. Now the question is, defensively, do we have the defense that it takes to go up against South Dakota State in the first game of the year? Do we have the defense stout enough to hold up against UC Davis, who, like I said earlier, is going to commit to, we're just going to run the ball? And that's going to be the thing for Sac State this year. Like I think Sac State wins 8 games easy. I have them winning the Big Sky. And, there's, I talk Connerly, I talk Campbell, I talk Coach Marion, Coach Ed, and all of these people. Like and I do this in my 3-minute breakdown. And from everything I'm hearing in the camp, he's competing, and I believe he's going to be the guy. I think the most important person on Sac State's entire team is a young man by the name of Jacob Jones. And Jacob Jones was like a 4-year player at Cal Poly, like a 3-year starter, tackling machine, plays in space, inline thumper, pass breaker upper, like movement, but like traditional inside linebacker. This recognizes that when you watch the tape, he's a dude who still finds his way in the play. Like for those of us who played, everybody had, it would be cool to be, all right, I'm the first dude on the tackle, but the emphasis on gang tackle where you might get the shoestring or the ankle and somebody else gets in, but there's always that one dude who's like, man, I'm just coming from the top rope. to finish it. Like Jacob Jones is a dude who shows up on tape like that. Like he's always involved. And I think he is going to be he and they have a safety whose name escapes me. But I think those are going to be the two most important people like for Sacramento State, like football team. Like I think Jacob Jones is the most important player on the team. Like I know Jaden Rashada is Jaden Rashada, and and Curtis is preseason. All of no, like I offensively I have no worries about Sacramento State. I think again, I think Brody, what's my boy's name? Brody Tagaloa. Just keep calling Brody. But I think the defensive line, Swindle. You got Mel, Leak. You got Mel, Leak, Brody. I think the Ross kid who came in from Nevada is going to be solid. Um, of course, Curtis. I think Porter's offense. Like I'm not worried about them offensively, but defensively. Um, I think Brendan Scott coming in. I want to say Brendan Scott also played like a little bit like stand up instead of hands down, edge of UNLV. Like defensively, like I'm looking at Jacob Jones. I'm looking at Jacob Jones, and I believe it's Caleb Higgins, who's at safety. So they've got a couple of safeties. I believe it's Higgins, and I'm interested in seeing Higgins and Emerson, who's a JUCO kid, and I think Emerson shows up this year, but I think between Higgins and Jacob Jones, I think that is going to be a very interesting year because Jacob Jones was a tackling machine at Cal Poly, and I know there are a ton of other players. They've got some more name guys, but I think the most important role in that defense, specifically in the Big Sky, is going to be linebacker. Like consistently in the Big Sky, like that's the thing you need. Like you need at least one or two really good hand in the dirt linemen, but in the Big Sky Conference, the game is not played by safeties. Like it's not like so many teams have a rover position because we just need somebody to designate to blitz and cover the zone for the flat. That's it. The big thing in the Big Sky is linebacker play, and I really think that Jacob Jones is going to be a super important like player in that. Between Jones and I believe they brought in a couple of JUCO kids. Everything I'm hearing, there's I believe it's V and another kid by the name of Eskridge, and I really think that Jones. I think Jones is the guy. I think Jacob Jones goes in there, and if they have solid linebacker play and depth, there's nothing Sacramento State can't do. 8 wins, easy. But that was it. I got nothing else for you. It's been an hour and almost 15 minutes. Thank you for listening to this FCS Focus preseason edition. Uh, some more stuff will come out this week. I'm going to do a breakdown of Colorado. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm doing a breakdown of Colorado for clicks. I've been watching a lot of social media, but I'm doing a breakdown of Colorado, partially for the clicks and because 7 to 8 wins. 7 to 8 wins this year. Colorado gonna lose at least 3 games. But I'm doing a breakdown of Colorado. Dogs barking. I'm doing a breakdown of Colorado because one for the clicks and two because I think I think they lose some games. I think they lose at least one game they're supposed to lose. But I really like Colorado. I love what Deion's doing, man. I love the fact that he beat bladder cancer, specifically someone who's lost a parent to cancer. Man, huge shout out to specifically Deion Sanders Jr. for being the older son. Salute. But yeah, man, gonna do that Colorado breakdown before the end of the week. Also looking to do a breakdown of a couple other FCS schools. Really, probably really gonna delve deeper into Northern Colorado. Probably finish up some of the schools in the Big Sky, Northern Colorado, Montana. Going to look down at the Division II level. Specifically, also want to look at Tennessee State and the alma mater of a handful of my cousins, and now the head coach there, Eddie George. Going to do some MAC breakdown and some action. So thank y'all, man, for listening, for tapping in. Going to do another one of these lives at some point next week or before the week is out and break down some of those schools from the MAC, from the Big Sky, and all that. But I appreciate y'all for listening. Get these hours up, get these likes up. God bless. Stay safe. Peace. Like, subscribe.